Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk Business. I'm glad you're joining us. And as I say after every commercial break, if you're watching us or listening to us on 94.5 The Answer, or maybe you're watching one of our podcasts on Google, Apple, or Spotify, or you're catching the video on YouTube, I'm glad you're here and I'm glad you found us. Thanks for coming back. And up next, I got Joe Perkins here with us. Joe is the Executive Vice President of Operations for Carolina Handling. Joe, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. I haven't had a chance to meet you, and even though I, of course, have researched a little bit about Carolina Handling, I wasn't overly familiar with you guys. You do a couple of things that I really want to talk about is warehouse optimization and supply chain types of issues, and we'll get into that in a second. But as we all know, supply chain is one of those things that everyone might not have been familiar with before March of 2020, but things happened at that point that made it a general part of our lexicon. And so we'll get into that. But first, tell me about Carolina Handling. What do y'all do?
Yeah, so material handling supplier right here in the Southeast. So cover North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Central Time Zone of Florida. We're the Raymond OEM, so electric forklift company. Over the last few years, we've really expanded what we want our customers to view us as. So getting away from just the forklift and service to really expanding into intralogistics solutions, which really impacts the supply chain.
Yeah. So you started as a forklift company?
We absolutely did.
And when did you all begin to kind of transition into something a little more umbrella-like?
Yeah, so I've been here for 11 years now, and during my time with the company, I've watched that transition to continue to happen. I think some of it was in the works before, but the big thing was customers needed all of the resources that we currently provide. And so why not become that one-stop shop that a customer can call you, and whether it's automation or rentals or service or what have you, we would be able to help them out.
Let's talk about supply chain. Let's get into a little bit more depth there. Ton of vulnerabilities raised their heads during COVID times.
Really did.
Right? I mean, it kind of got ugly there for a couple years. I think we continue to experience some things, but tell us about those vulnerabilities and what happened.
Yep. So, the cool thing about Carolina Handling and our customer base is that we service so many different verticals. From, here in the upstate, we had a tissue supplier that we were working with, and we know during COVID, I mean, that was booming. But there were really a couple things that I think COVID really exposed. First, it was how quickly the customer and our consumers could adapt and change their buying habits. And so we saw a lot of our customers where they were challenged with moving pallets to now moving cases or eaches because the buying habit of the consumer had changed. And while they may have been moving the same amount of volume, the amount of touches that it took to get it to that end user changed drastically. And so therefore, the throughput in those facilities, I mean, it was 2 or 3x what it had been. And so a real challenge. Another thing that I think it really exposed was a lot of our customers had single source supply chain on a lot of parts and components and things that were coming from overseas and offshore. And, those customers quickly realized that, hey, I have to redesign, re-engineer some of the products that I may be supplying because I can't get it. A lot of the world, while the U.S. may have been opening up, a lot of the world was still shut down in many of the regions that were supplying that. And then, the other thing was the labor shortage. We saw an exodus of a lot of the baby boomers out of the workforce. And a lot of our customers depend on labor to move product. And when those folks started to leave the workforce, it really left a void.
Sure did. What types of clients are we talking about for you guys?
Oh gosh,
Give us an example.
It's manufacturing through distribution, it's pharmaceutical to food. You think we're touching the Amazons, the Walmarts, we're touching Pfizer, and we're all over the place.
Let's talk about automation, manufacturing automation. I think that there is a more of an acceptance for customers these days to embrace automation in manufacturing. How are you all playing a part in that?
Yeah. So, the things I mentioned earlier, right? All of our customers are facing that labor shortage. They're needing to move products faster. They're needing to optimize their facility. And, going back to the transition of our company, I mentioned we didn't want to be just a forklift company. And so the first thing that we did, and I mean, this has really happened over the last 5 to 7 years, we created an intralogistics group that we have. And when that group started, we were 4 or 5 people selling stick rack and things like that to our customers. But today that group's over 35 people. And we've got engineers, we've got consultants, we've got a ton of expertise that we've added. I think there's like over 150 years of expertise in that engineering group. And so our customers are able to come to us for something that they typically would have to pay for. And we're able to help them understand what solutions are out there. Another piece that is key to Toyota, Raymond, and Carolina Handling is, you've probably heard Toyota Production Systems. We call it Raymond Lean Management, but it's really a focus on continuous improvement. And so you talked about warehouse optimization earlier, and we really believe strongly in optimizing processes before you go and start to put automation in. Because if you automate a bad process, it's automated within it. And so we really want to make sure that optimization happens first.
Technology is changing like crazy, right? I mean, it never stops. In the manufacturing world, it seems like just the other day we were Industry 3.0, and now we're zooming up to 5.0. It seems like, right?
Yep.
What does technology look like in the next decade?
Oh gosh, I wish I had that crystal ball, man.
Right.
We'd make a lot of money. But
yeah.
I think I would answer it this way. I think everything points to overcoming the challenges that we talked about earlier and the adoption following those challenges. So the talent shortage, anything that can play in that space, so AGVs, automated robots, a lot of goods to person technology where rather than someone having to travel the warehouse, the product is brought to them. Anything that, helps with the supply chain disruption and minimizing that. I think you're going to see a lot of technology that creates transparency, as well as the Internet of Things, right? So how do we tie a machine and what that machine's doing relative to order size and magnitude and really optimizing how they play a role within the supply chain up and downstream.
Great info, Joe.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely.
Really good stuff. Folks, that is Joe Perkins. He is the Executive Vice President of Operations for Carolina Handling. I appreciate him being here. And we're going to take a quick break. We'll only be on about 30 seconds, but we'll be right back. Here's a company you should know.